Good evening, everyone. Welcome to one more of our meetings on Mondays, and as every second Monday of the month, we have a meeting in English. We've been doing this for, I don't know, 12, 15 years. I can't remember. It's been a while. We started with 2 meetings every
is for us, who can be against us? Paul wrote that on his letter to the Romans, and it's on Rome 8:31. And then Emmanuel says, Paul's questions still represents a beautiful theme for the evangelical community of today. Awaiting our efforts, an immense field unfolds in which the Master looks for our resolute collaboration. Frequently, however, many workers prefer to neglect the endeavor in order to squabble with evildoer along the way. So I actually searched evildoers, because it's a word that I've never heard, and it means more than mean, more than evil. It means almost like a maleficent person or like an extremely evil person. I just want to put that out there because not a lot of us heard this word before. Adverse elements surround us everywhere. Unexpected obstacles appears before our worried eyes. Old friend leaves us. Yesterday's favorable situations changes into cruel hostiles. Huge ranks of workers flee from the peril, fearing the storm, and forgetting about their weakness. However, we have not been given this word in order to surrender to panic, nor has the Master sent us to work with the objective of confusing us with external experiences. We have been called upon to build. Our, of course, we must expect 1,000 eventualities each day that arise from opposing forces that make construction difficult. Our day of struggle will be beset by troubles and fatigue. This is inevitable in a world that expects everything from the genuine Christian. Due to this imperative, amid the threats and misunderstandings of the pathway, it is up to us to ask joyously, like the apostle of the Gentiles, if God is for us, who can be against us? There's a lot of words in this explanation that Emmanuel brings that are words that we don't hear every day, but we face every day. Um, but basically, what he's saying is we have difficulties, we have people against us, we have our life that happens. It doesn't matter, life happens, and difficulties will appear, which is could be material, it could be spiritual, it could be health wise. Everything will happen to keep you from looking on the right angle or looking towards the future or looking towards Jesus or trying to keep you away from God. Every single day, something is going to happen. Every single day, we're going to be threatened with our faith. So, is our faith strong enough? That's the question. Is our faith is strong enough to believe that God is for us? Who can be against us? Do we truly believe in that? When we look to our issues, if I had cancer today, would I look at that cancer and be thankful for that cancer? Or would I be looking into that cancer and feel like I'm the victim? How do I look at things? How do I see how do I see the difficulties? How do I see the challenges that do I try to overcome those problems or do I just give in? And this is what this passage is about. It's telling us to stop giving in because we tend to make ourselves the victims all the time, and we tend to forget that there's a huge lesson behind every step we take, behind every difficulty we have. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they had Cleo Beatties there. Cleo Beatties or Betties? Beatties, yeah. And she's a famous Brazilian actor, singer. Her mom is super famous, and she was saying that she's not religious at all. She has no religion beliefs, but she was saying that she thrives through her sadness. She thrives through all the difficulties. She said that when something hits her, she just goes deep into that phase of sadness. She goes deep into whatever it is that's bugging her, whatever it is that's causing her pain, because she knows that after that, there's a huge lesson that she's going to learn. There's something bigger. There's a lesson that has to be learned that is way beyond all of that suffering. And those are the things we cannot see while we're suffering. While we're suffering, all we want to do is suffer and complain. We are not able to see the lesson that is behind that. Right? I do have cancer, but what have I learned from my cancer? Or if a person died of cancer, our first thought is that person lost a battle against cancer. No, he didn't. That person won a battle for his life, for his spiritual life, which goes way beyond all of this that we're living in right now. That person just had a bunch of different debt from previous lives or from this life that he was able to get it done with. He suffered, person went through everything. Cancer is hard, it is tough, but there was a lesson behind that as well. So this is what Emmanuel, and first of all, this is what Paul is telling us, that let's try to look of what is behind all of this suffering and try to overcome, because God is with us. And if he's with us, there's nobody against us, because he's the most powerful thing or person or whatever you want to put, energy, whatever you want to put out there. It's the most powerful thing that we have. And he's with us. We are part of him. Everything that we have, every single cell in our body belongs to him. And there's nothing more than that. There's a He says, we have been called upon to build. We need to build. We forget that we are here to become us as spiritualists. We have to believe, we have to know that we are here today to be better than we were yesterday. And if we are letting all of this take over us and we're not seeing the bigger picture, we're doing something wrong. And we do something, we do wrong by this every time. If a friend is not talking to us anymore, we're the victims. Okay, but if that friend is not talking to us anymore, maybe there's something much more powerful. Maybe there's a reason behind that that's much better, and we're not able to see. We just want to suffer over this. We just want to be the victims. We have to stop being the victims. And when Paul said this, when he wrote this letter, the reason why he wrote this letter was because the Christians were being killed, they were being threatened, they were being everything. They were being beaten up every day. Something would happen because you were Christian. So he wrote this so that to give them the understanding that, all right, all of this is happening to you, but you still have God. God is with you. Don't worry. Let them beat you up. How many times was Paul beaten up? How many times did he go to jail? How many times he showed us all of this? So when he wrote this letter, that's what he wanted to say. He wanted to say, hey guys, I know you're suffering. I know you're getting beaten up. I know you're going to jail. I know there's tons of you who are dying. But there's a purpose, there's a reason behind all of this. We are just here thinking about today. We're just here thinking about this body that we are wearing today. We're forgetting that this body is going to be gone. It's going to be buried and it's gone. But what have you learned from what you suffered? What are you taking from here? You don't take your body, you don't take your belongings, you don't take any of that. All you take is what you've learned and what you've grown and what you've built and what you've accomplished as a person, as a spirit, as your moral beliefs, as how are you treating others. That is more important than you being beaten up. And when I say beaten up, I'm not saying physically. I'm also saying beaten up emotionally. We are target every single day, especially in the world like we live in today, where there's social media and people talking about whatever they want, every left and right. Nobody cares about anything. We are getting beaten up because we have to have the perfect body. We have to have the perfect job. We get beaten up every single day. But beyond all of that, we're learning. We're taking something out of this. And we have God with us. So if He's with us, who is against us? Who can hurt us? Not our physical body. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about emotionally. Let's not let people hurt us emotionally. Let's take control over this because we have God with us. Let's not let them destroy who we are, destroy our faith. Let's get beaten up as many times as we have to because God is with us. And we have to remember that every day, every single day we go through difficulties. We all have our struggles. We all have our limit capacity to do something. But most important of all, we have God who is with us, who got our back. Let's take advantage of that. That's what I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Matt is going to talk to us about kindness. I don't know if people who was online heard, but he has some really nice things to say about kindness because he's the most kind person I know.
Okay, thank you, Mariana. You were very kind saying that. First. Yes, so I hope that everything is back to normal online. We have had no idea what happened over there in the computer. Just heard the noise, and then all of a sudden everything was off. But now everything is back on, and hopefully there's still someone watching us over there online, and I know that there's people here too. So thank you for coming. Um, and so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about kindness. As I said in the beginning, this was an invitation from my dear friend and our dear friend actually here from Cantinho, Vanessa Saloni. She's been here for a few times and always very kind of her heart to be here and to talk to us. And she invited me to talk to the group over in Virginia. That's where she lives. And I actually mentioned you two guys yesterday. Didn't say your names, but I said they have a few friends that would talk. So, and she invited me to talk about kindness, and I said, okay, let's do it. And today I was, reading about the topic that I was gonna talk here, and I said, no, you know what? Since I'm just talked about it, so let's do it again. To a different group of people because it was touching for me. It is touching for me. So I decided to come and talk a little bit about kindness again. So um, a while ago, I can't remember when, I um, remember reading a message which uh, I, up to this day and yesterday, I thought of, hey, maybe I should research and see if that message exists or not, or if it's something that I created in my mind. But I totally forgot about it. So today I'm telling the same thing. I remember reading something when I was young, and that something touched me, that I carry it with me up to this day. Hopefully, it was, well, I maybe it's written somewhere because I remember vividly reading this message from Andre Luis, in one of his books. It might be Spirit Conduct, it might be Christian Agenda. I don't know. Maybe it's in one of his books, but in my mind, is from Andre Luis, and he was talking about the way we behave in the world, what we do in the world. In one of the lines there, um, talked about how do we treat a door. That sometimes we close a door too strongly, with too much strength. We slam the door, usually when we are angry. So we are angry, we're going out of a room or going into a room, or we are talking to someone that we love, but at that very moment we don't love him or her so much. So then, so that we don't do anything to that person, we do to something else. And then we do it to a door, which is very common. Probably everybody here did it once, at least once. Um, Hopefully not more than once, but but maybe we did it more than once. And that thing stuck with me for a very long time because actually the question that sentence gave me was, and maybe that's in a message too. Why are we treating bad the door? What did the door do to me? And even if it's, oh, the door didn't do anything to me, was that someone else? And I can use the excuse of saying, okay, I'm not going to hit the person, so I hit the door, right? So that's usually how we do it. I'm not going to do to this, I'm going to do to that. However, that shows us, and that shows me, that the problem is still happening. The problem is still inside. It doesn't matter if I did it to the person, to the dog, to the chair, to the door. The problem is not the door. The problem is not the person. The problem is not the chair. The problem is not the dog. What is the problem? Is inside of me, right? So I carry that with me. And that's usually um, the big problem. Because we tend to look at the world as if the world is responsible for my sufferings. But is it? Is the world really responsible for what I'm going through? Or is it the way that I perceive what's happening outside? Mariana was just saying, you're talking about, having a disease. And of course, cancer is that one that we always have in mind. But it doesn't necessarily even need to be a cancer. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a big, big thing. It can be a small thing. It can be an itch. You were bitten by a mosquito, and then you're like itching the whole day, and then you're complaining about that thing the whole day. This morning I saw this video that my sister sent to me, and I found it to be very interesting. Two dinosaurs. They're talking to each other. So comes one dinosaur And the dinosaur looks at the other and says, "Oh, I'm very, very anxious. Can you help me?" And then the other dinosaur looks at him, looks at the first one, and says, "Do you want um, me to give you the solution, or do you want support?" And the dinosaur stops and doesn't say anything for a while, and he says, "I just want support." And the small dinosaur comes on top of the other big dinosaur, and he sits down and hugs the big one, hugs the small one. And after a few minutes says, "Oh, that helps." The world, I mean, we can try to solve problems in so many different ways. We can try to explain it, we can try to reason it, we can try to feel it, we can try to silence and be quiet and try to understand where that comes from. And we will be able, in certain ways, to realize what I can do, but not necessarily all the time, all the time, all the time. I have to try to solve the problem right away when it happens. Why am I not kind to the door? Why am I not kind to the chair? It's because I am not kind. It's not because of the chair. It's not because of the door. It's not because someone made me angry. It's because I still don't have it in me. It's as simple as that. Why then we look at a baby that's crawling around, and then we ask ourselves, why doesn't the baby walk? Why does the baby crawl? The baby doesn't know how to walk yet. He has not the capability. He didn't learn how to be stable on 2 feet. He tries sometimes to raise, but he will fall. Why? Because the body still doesn't know. He still didn't get to that point where he learns how to use his muscles and what's inside our head that we don't know what it is, but there's a labyrinth inside our head with a liquid that bubbles from one side to the other, bubbles from one side to the other, telling me, hey, you are losing your balance. So when you're doing this way, go the other way. And also, which sometimes we don't realize, but experiments show this, that we thought that the inner ear, was the biggest responsible for us to be in equilibrium. But actually, our eyes play a big, big role in our equilibrium. And that was proven when what they did was they put a lot of people in a human pyramid, and they were all like in equilibrium. They were all, and then all of a sudden they turned all the lights off. Couldn't see anything else. A few seconds, they all fell. Because their eyes were not coordinating with their ears. And they couldn't fix a point and see that they were moving. Once we don't have our eyes organizing and mapping everything around, we lose balance more easily. So our body influenced me, and I influence my body. I'm going around in circles because when we don't know what we have inside, we don't know how we will react, how we will do stuff. We don't know. So that's why sometimes it feels like repetitive when we are up here talking about the gospel or about something, be it kindness, be it humbleness, be it patience, and we always end up saying that we need to know ourselves. But the reason is If I don't know, if I have that, how will I know what will happen when something happens to me? With kindness, it couldn't be different. It is the same thing. I have to learn if I am kind. I have to try to see if I am kind to the world. Because, and I go back to the door example. If it happens, and if I kick something, doesn't need to be a door. If I kick something because I'm angry, it means that I still have that anger inside of me, and I was not kind to whatever I kicked, to the door. So when I think about Andre Luis in that specific example that I used, I think about myself, and I think about, and I forgot to apologize to you in the beginning because some of these things that I'm saying, they are still in a process of being organized in my mind. And when we are organizing stuff in our minds, we take time, we have to take some time to put them in place, to put them here and there. In this, while I'm talking, I create these voids, these spaces, these silences, because it is as if I'm allowing myself to hear from me what I want to say. In that, I knew that that would happen. I knew that that would happen yesterday, and I knew that that would happen today. Because in this specific topic, it's not that I am in doubt of what I'm saying. It is more of how do I see kindness? How do I put kindness in these small boxes that I have in my personal mind? When I'm speaking to someone, when I'm saying something to someone, when I'm grabbing a book from the bookshelf, when I'm writing something. What is kindness? What does kindness have to do with all the things that I do in my life? And these things are kind of floating in the air. And that's why I wanted to apologize in the beginning and I just started talking and I forgot about it. Because there would be moments where you would be completely out of understanding of what I'm saying. Because what I want you to feel and what I want me to feel is that for us to be kind to other people or to other things, for us to be kind in general, we have to allow time and space to flow. Because if we are reactive, if something happens to me and I immediately do something back, it is very rare that the thing that I do immediately after is kind. It's very rare. Why? Because we're still not kind. If we were kind, we would not respond. If we were kind, we would respond always with kindness. Always. It doesn't matter what would happen to me. I would always be kind. But because I'm still not kind enough, if something happens to me and I do it right away, it usually is unkind. It's not kind. Because we still didn't learn, bless you, we still didn't learn to respond with kindness in all our attitudes at all times. There's a message in the book Jesus in the Home, which is psychographed by Chico Xavier in the spirit Brother X, if I'm not mistaken. It might be Neo Lucio. I always forget. So Jesus in the home.
Jesus more.
Might be Neus, but I always forget. But there's a message there in that book where Jesus is talking about, or they are in this gospel in home or God at home, and they're talking with, he is talking to the disciples, and not only in one message, in all the messages in this book, but in this one specifically, someone, which I think is Tiago, comes, or James, comes to him and talks to him about this passage, which I'm going to mention in a few minutes. But the passage is, "Blessed are the meek, or the peaceful, because they will possess the earth. The earth will be theirs." And they misunderstood this, and they thought that Jesus was talking about us not having the courage to fight for the rights, and he starts, he will explain that's not what he wanted to mean. But what's interesting in this message specifically, and you may read it later to realize it, is that when James or whoever it is that's talking to him, Jesus is listening. He is silent. He is not talking back. He is not arguing. He is not saying anything. He is actively listening to the other person. After the disciples finishes what he's saying, he looks around as if encouraging others to say something else. In this silence, you see what I'm trying to say? Jesus is silent. He is not fighting back. He is being kind to us, waiting for us to share what we think, which is everybody wants to be heard. And he is here. He is listening. Then Peter talks, and Peter says something. After Peter says, then he comes and he explains. It's not something that you do it right away. It's not something that someone talks and then you talk back. Someone talks and you talk back. No, Jesus in this moment, in most of the moments in the book, he is always, always, always in that moment of silence, silencing to hear the other, to let the other come in so that I can understand what the other one is saying. But we are not like this. We always rush to say something. We always rush to do something. We don't take the time to be kind. We don't take the time to say, why is that person saying that? Why is that happening to me, right, Mariana? Why is that happening to me? That was the message. Why is it? No, we know why. We already know why, right? We know who. We know when. We know everything because we always know everything. But we still keep asking. So if we know, because we already know, why do I keep asking? It means that I don't know. It means that I really should stop and think. Stop, empty the mind, and let the answer come. I mean, one thing that I like, one day, I think I was working for FedEx at the time, and I was delivering the packages, whatever, and I think it was then. And then I was passing by a place, and then I saw a book. It was a tiny book, a small book, something like this. I don't even know what this is. Oh, this is a manual. Oh, that's nice. I should have written a kindness here. So it was a book like this, and the book said, "Our Daily Bread." I said, "Our daily bread." And of course, I just remembered of the book that Mariana just read from, Our Daily Bread. But it was not this book. It was a missionary, or there's a missionary here, or a missionary church in the United States, that they have this small bulletin that I think goes out every 2 months or whatever it is. And you can sign up for free, and they will send you like a small booklet with messages. And this small booklet is called Our Daily Bread. Right? So I found that to be very interesting. So I opened it up, I brought it home. It was like in a bench or something. Clearly, someone left it there for someone else. And then when I got home, I opened it up to check it out, and I stopped at one of the, like we do it here sometimes. We open up and read a message. So I opened it up and read a message, and I read that message, and it was talking about, the message was about prayer. So they were talking about doing prayer and so on. And then in the end, said this sentence that never got out of my mind, that I really love. To me, it's very, very powerful. If Jesus stopped to pray, what should we do then? If Jesus prayed, what should we do? We should pray the whole day, every 24 hours a day, all the time. Of course, not being stopped and praying, but be in a state of prayer, because that's what he was doing. He was in a state of prayer 100% of the time. But even so, he stopped to pray. While he was on the cross, he prayed. And he prayed not only to God, but to us or for us. Well, not condemning us, but asking God to forgive us because we didn't know what we were doing. So he would stop and be kind. He would silence and be kind. He would hear what other people are saying before saying something else. He would ask a question, but a true question, not a question for a question, but a question that would really start the other person to think about what they were doing, if necessary. If not necessary, he would not ask a question regarding that person. Just like when he did to the woman that was about to be stoned because she was betraying supposedly her husband, which Emmanuel comes and says, "And where's the man?" You want to apologize, you want to stone the woman, but Emmanuel says, "And where's the man? Why are you not stoning the man? Why is it just the woman?" But that's a story for another talk, right? But what does he do? What is the question that he asks her? He doesn't ask her about her guilt. He asks her to think about the others who were trying to condemn her. Where are the others who were condemning you? Oh, they all left. I'm not here to condemn you either. That's being kind, but at the same time, teaching something, not only to her, to all the others who were listening, probably his disciples and the others who were not throwing stones, but were passing by and knew about the story, and also to her, teaching everybody, but teaching with kindness, teaching with truth from the inside, not teaching something just because I am a teacher or because I want to be the best and show it to you how good I am. No, that's not the point. Being kind is not being superior to the other, is being the best that we can be at the level that I am, and then using that goodness towards the others. But to do that, we have to take our time. We have to slow down. We have to calm down and learn not necessarily to speak less. It's not about speaking less or more, although it can have a connection, but it's not about speaking less or more. It's to learn what to say, when to say, how to say it, what to do, how to do, when to do it. It's that learning process that it's not going to happen from the day that I decide to be kinder. No, it will happen slowly as nature does things. Nature teaches us over time. Nature has its own rhythm to teach us things. I was talking to Flavio here Saturday. He came here tonight, Uh, yeah, yeah, Saturday. So, and we were talking about, changes and how stuff change. And um, we ended up using the same kind of idea as nature. I mean, oh, I want to eat an orange. Okay, if I want to eat it now, I have to go and buy one, right? But when was that orange planted that I'm eating right now? We don't know. And if someone had not thought about planting an orange, whenever it was planted, I would not be able to eat it now. But we have it now, then we think that, oh, when I want an orange, I always have it. It depends. Sometimes it's not even the right time of the year, and we will not be able to eat certain types of fruits, certain types of stuff. The same happens with us. It takes time, but I have to start. I have to start at one point. So if I want the world to be a kinder place, I have to start with me. I have to start doing it slowly but surely.
Be the change you want to see.
Be the change you want to see in the world. That's Gandhi. And that's uh, how we start this, let's say, the movement of kindness. Everybody that goes to a Dunkin' Donuts, to a Starbucks, to a Marshall's, to whatever store, to whatever place, wants to be treated with kindness from the person that's, you know, taking us in. Oh, I want to buy coffee. I want to buy this grocery. Also, I want the person to smile. I want the person at least to be like kind to me. How much kindness am I giving the other person? My daughter told me something that I actually, I do it. I don't even know why I do, but I have one hint. My dad, right, when I was very young, he used to take me sometimes, and some of my brothers or sisters when they were growing up as well. We used to go and walk. He used to go and walk um, at the sidewalk in the beach where we lived. And we would drive there, we would park, and then we would walk like a certain amount, and then we would walk back. As kids, we would walk much less than he would, so he would walk much further, but then we would stop, and then when he came back, he would grab us, and then we would go back to the car. And as we were walking, he was trying to, or at least doing the most that he could, to say good morning to everybody that he would pass by. So everybody that was passing by, he would say, good morning. Hey, how are you doing? So he would say that to everybody, which was kind of weird, I have to say, especially being a kid and looking at that and seeing an old man, say good morning to everybody. And one day, I asked him, he says, you know what? Pay attention to the ants. Every time an ant crosses another ant, they touch each other. They're saying something to each other. And we are adults, we are humans. And we can say hello to each other. We can say good morning to each other. Are we less than ants? And that stuck to me. We live in such a small bubble that sometimes we forget to even say hello, depending on where we are. And we tend to lose that over time. Naturally, to everything there's a limit. I have to find my limit. I have to find what the situations and everything. I'm not saying that every shirt fits everybody. No, but everybody wears shirts, right? So it's not my shirt, but we all wear something. So what I'm saying is, once we find that kindness inside of me, however small it is, maybe it's just an exterior kindness, but be it so at that moment. But let's try to get that kindness that's only like this surface, this mask that we all have, and try to bring that to the inside. Because that's what we really need. We need the social masks, naturally, but we need that to be true. Because when we die, the social masks will stay down. And who am I? Everybody will see who I am. Everybody will see if I am being kind just because I am here, or if I am being kind because I am actually kind. And who am I? You don't know. Neither of you know. Sometimes neither I know. Neither I know who I am. But that's the truth. That's what we need to learn. We need to learn to know who we are, and to put the best of myself to the outside, and use that powerful tool that is kindness. Because not only the world needs kindness, we need kindness. And we are only here because God was kind enough to let us be here. Otherwise, we would not be here. God was kind enough to put us where we need to be, and didn't let us have let us have more burden, more weight on our shoulders than we can carry. We can only carry a certain amount, and that's the amount that He gave to us. But sometimes we think that we are better than God, and then we do worse things to other people. And then we are mean to other people instead of being kind. To reduce the load of the other person, what do? We put more load on the other person's lives. So I put this thing here. I'm going to go through very quickly. These are just like small sentences. One is a message from Emmanuel, which is from a book that's not translated to English. So I put like my way. I wrote it the way I translated. And the message is, that's why I talked about silence, that we need to slow down, that we need to put some silence, because Emmanuel brings that idea to us. He brought that idea to me and brought that idea to us. So I'm going to, hopefully it works. It does. So, happy us, Emmanuel says, through Chico Xavier, happy us who already understood the value of the silence. And I spoke a little bit about here. So I guess that we kind of understand a little bit of what that silence means, that time that we need to have so that we can do something. But he goes deeper and he says, however, if we already know what silence is, right? If we already acquired that silence, if we already know that we need to stop and think before we do something, let's not condemn our friends or the others that are around us that still did not lose the habit of talking too much. Because the problem with not being kind is, if I know that I am kind, or if I think I know that I am kind, and a person is not being kind, what do? I judge. I condemn. Therefore, I am not being kind. Therefore, not being kind, I thought that I was kind, but I'm not kind yet. I'll repeat it, because I think that I am kind, because I already understood the silence that needs to happen before I do something. And then I see someone that is talking too much, that is not kind. How kind I am to that person. If I condemn the other person, I'm saying to myself, I am not kind yet. Because kindness, if it sees it, it will not say anything. It will be silent. It will take that in. And Emmanuel will explain it why. He says, if that person is talking too much, Don't condemn it. Listen. As we were saying before, listen. There's a video on YouTube. I said listen, and I remember this. Listen, Linda. Linda, listen. Linda, listen. Listen, Linda. It's a small boy that wants to tell something to his mother, right? Linda, listen, listen. The mother cannot hold it. Listen to them with kindness and goodness. The person is like talking. But Emmanuel is not just talking about the talk. He is saying that to anything that's happening to us, that the world is doing to me. If the world is doing something that I seem to think that it's not kind, stop. Listen. Linda, listen. Listen with kindness. What does it mean to listen with kindness? See, kindness is active, even in the way that we are taking stuff in. It's not just the way that we treat other people from here to there, but also how we treat people when they are coming to us. And then we embrace them without the hugs, without the arms. We embrace it. Just like the dinosaur embraced the other that just needed support. He didn't need the other one to explain why that thing was happening. He just listen. Listen to them with kindness and goodness. And then he will say why. He will say, it is possible that through them, through what the person is saying, through what is happening to me, we can get, without even asking, great information that refer to my own peace. So accept what's going on, take it in and say, what does that thing have to do with me? Why does that thing happen to me? Why is that person saying that while I am there? And then I take it in to learn and say, okay, it's something that maybe I don't understand it now, but maybe I'll understand in the future. And take it in with kindness and goodness, whatever that is. And we have lots of examples of this. One that comes to my mind right now is the one that they tell this story with different people, with Chico, with other people. It doesn't matter to whom it happened. What to me is important is the example that was set. Someone comes to the door, and this person comes to the door to ask for a donation, and the person that's inside the house is in an angry state. He's very out of his mind, and he comes, knocks at the door. The person opens and says, "Hey, I'm here for that for a community service. I need some help. Do you have anything to help us with?" And the person spits in his face or in his hand or whatever, however the story is told. And then he cleans it up and says, "Oh, that you gave to me, and that I accept because I deserve it. I know that I deserve it. But do you have something to give to the other people that need?" That's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. I would say that in my level, it's impossible. I would walk away. I don't know if I would have the strength to do what he did after. But that's the example that needs to be set. If something is happening to me, it's happening to me for a cause, period. I take it with kindness. I take it with goodness because that thing wants to teach me something. And now I'm kind. I use kindness back because that's what I should be doing. It's using kindness back to whatever situation. The Dalai Lama says, be kind whenever possible. But it doesn't end there. He says, it is always possible. Be kind whenever. Because it is possible. It is possible to be kind. at all times. Sometimes it's being silent. Sometimes it's saying something. Sometimes it's hugging. Sometimes it's leaving. There's no set formula for doing it. But we have to learn what this each situation calls for. In kindness will, like water, will mold to whatever the situation is. If we throw water in a bucket, it will have the shape of the bucket. Is water being kind? It's being embraced. It's filling everything. Kindness fills whatever it is. It leaves when it needs to leave. If there's a hole, it will leave. Because the hole is saying, I don't want you inside, so I'm leaving. That's being kind. If someone doesn't want, I will leave. There's this other sentence that I've seen it somewhere written in different ways. I searched for the quote and I saw this quote from so many different people that I don't know who that is. I wrote one of the names that I found online because I've seen it written so many ways. It's about knowledge. Well, it's about kindness, but it's about knowledge. Everyone we meet is fighting a battle we know nothing about. We know nothing about the problems of the other people we are talking to. Sometimes we're talking to some. I remember being a kid, I went to visit a friend of ours. She was a very old woman at the time, and she already passed away. She had been president of the Espírita Federation of the state that I was born in. And she was a close friend to my dad and to my grandmother. So she was in bed and she was like suffering already. I don't remember, maybe she had a cancer. I was very young, I really don't remember. But I remember going and seeing her. I entered in the room. And when I entered the room, we called her name was Maria. We called her Aunt Maria. That's how we called her. And I said, Aunt Maria, and then we ran to her. She was always like happy and always hugging us. And I remember like she was happy and she was talking to us and we stayed there. I stayed inside for, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You're boys, right? You want to run, you don't want to stay anywhere. That's how it is. But after I said it, after I left and we were outside going home and my dad, and that image of her talking to me and stuck with me. And my dad had told me and my mom had told me that she was very sick, and she probably could die very soon. But I entered the room and I didn't see her sick. So my question to my dad was, Dad, you told me that she was sick. But she was not sick. And he looks at me, my son, she was sick. She is very sick. But you wouldn't know because she's happy. So she was being kind to me. You know what I mean? She was being the kindest person that I've ever seen. I mean, you're in a bed, almost dying, and a kid comes to see you. Maybe, everybody does that. I don't know if everybody does that. But I tend to believe that even if they do it, it is very hard. So she was happy, according to my dad's words. But she was happy. And then after, she gave lots of messages in the Spirits Federation and still communicates these days, I think. Everyone we meet is fighting a battle we know nothing about. So be kind. Always. Jesus invites us and tell us the meek or the kind, the gentle, you can use different words. They all mean the same thing. Will inherit the earth. The earth, in the end, will be for the ones who are meek, who are gentle, who are kind. Why? Because the kind people will transform the unkind people into kind people. So everybody will be kind one day because you will have no strength for not being kind when everybody around you is kind. So if we start being kind, we can set this virtuous circle of doing something, and then the other person will do it something. That's the pay it forward. We do it, and someone else does it for you. There's this story of this doctor, Dr. Howard Kelly. It's told like embellished, but it's a true story to certain points. He was a rich kid from a rich family of doctors. But one day, when he was very young, he uh, was helped by this person. I'm going to show, doesn't have any words necessarily. You don't need to listen to anything, and I don't know if it will play because, and I don't know if you've seen this before, this video before. But this is an advertisement that's been circulating for a while, and the story is based on this story of this doctor that really happened. This one here is a fiction, but the original story is true. So I'm gonna play it. It's just like 3 minutes, then we finish it up. Hopefully it plays. Let me go to. Hopefully. It's just like a song that plays in the background. So they are stealing, right? The boy is stealing something, and comes a man, asks if he is sick, his mother is sick, and he says yes, pays for the medicine, and the lady is kind of screaming or yelling at him, and then he calls his daughter, asks for a soup, gives the medicine and a soup to the boy. And the boy just goes. 30 years later, he is still doing the same thing at the same place. And sometimes gives soup for free to some people. Mhm. I don't know what kind of money is that, but it looks big, 792,000, whatever that is. She's distraught because she doesn't know what to do, of course. And um, but to save her father, she needs to do it, and so she will say, "Yes, do it." Then she puts things for sale, and after the surgery, everything became zero. And it was paid 30 years ago with 3 packs of medication and a bag of soup. And like I was saying, this was a true story from this guy named Howard Kelly. He used to do that for every, he was well off. So every 4 surgeries, he would pay one for someone and one of them, he wrote a note. It was paid 20 years ago with a glass of milk that he received when he was young. That's what kindness is. It doesn't necessarily need to be a huge thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that will change the universe. Because it does change the universe. But it changes the universe one small act at a time. And it changes the universe for that person that we are helping, that we are being kind with. So kindness is that thing that goes and comes back, like everything else. Everything that we do comes back to us. But if we are kind, we never know how kindness will reach back to us. So um, I hope that something stick to you. Um, but what I would like to finish with is if I'm helping something or someone, I am making a difference to that someone, to that person at that specific moment. I was telling the story about my dad and the ants. My daughter came to me one day and she said, which is very interesting too, because we don't know how much our actions really affect other people. One day she came to me and she said, I never understood why you say people's names. I guess she was embarrassed, maybe, because that's usually why kids remember stuff from old people. That's how I remember stuff from my dad, is because I was embarrassed. So she says, I never understood why when you go to a shopping market or whatever, you look at the name tag and you say, hey, good morning. And that's why I say it, because my dad taught me with the ends, right? And then one day she comes to me at night after her shift at work, and she says, you know, today I understood why you say people's names. Because someone said my name, and she didn't feel like a robot. So that's kindness, right? So sorry, I apologize, but uh, let's be kind, and I hope that you're kind enough to hold my tears, to understand them, and let's be kind. I think it's worth being kind. And now we're going to pass this. I think, right? And we'll be back this Saturday, and next Monday we'll be here. Thank you for being here.
Right?
Oh, let's do the prayer. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about the transmission. Yeah, so let's do our final prayer before we thank you, everybody who were online as well. Hopefully, everything worked fine after our mishap in the beginning. And let's thank Jesus and thank the good spirits and thank God for the kindness that they always show to us when coming here for us, to be with us, to share their love with us, to to support us on our failures, on our difficulties, but also to share with us our happiness, the good accomplishments that we have. So thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. And may your love follow us wherever we are by making us better people, by making us kinder people. Not only today, but as we always say, always and forever and always. So